Today, we're going to break down a really powerful mental model, one that's designed for thriving in a world that just won't stop changing. It's called the venture mindset, and it's all about how to make smarter bets to get, well, truly extraordinary growth. So think about this for a second. How on earth did the first investors see the potential in companies like Zoom or Airbnb or even SpaceX when pretty much everyone else thought they were crazy? These companies didn't just do well, they literally changed the world. So was it all just a lucky guess?
Well, the answer is a big, fat no. It wasn't luck at all. Behind these incredible bets was a very specific, and let's be honest, pretty counterintuitive way of thinking. A contrarian mental model that kind of flies in the face of everything we're taught in business school. And here's the best part. It's a model that you, me, anyone in any industry can actually learn.
To really get this new model, first we've got to look at the old one, what we might call the corporate instinct. Now, for decades, this was the playbook for success, right? You prioritize predictable, slow, and steady growth, and you avoid mistakes like the plague. But in the world we live in now, that exact same instinct has become a recipe for getting completely disrupted. You know, at the very heart of that corporate instinct is one simple, unwritten rule: avoid failure at all costs. A single bad project can seriously ding your career. The venture mindset just flips this whole idea completely on its head. It argues you have to become a failure champion. I know, that sounds totally radical, but it is the absolute core of this entire framework.
So, how in the world do you become a champion of failure? Well, it all starts with the first and most critical principle of the venture mindset. It's a concept that is going to completely reframe how you think about success and failure.
The whole venture mindset is built on 9 principles, but they all really grow from this one single foundational idea. Home runs matter, strikeouts don't. See, in most of our jobs, we're judged on our batting average. We aim for a lot of safe little hits, and we try desperately not to strike out. This mindset says that's the exact wrong way to go about real innovation. And this brings us to something called the home run paradigm. It's the theory that real disruptive innovation isn't about averages at all. It's about outliers. You make a ton of different bets, and you go in knowing most of them are going to fail. You're searching for that one massive 100x success that doesn't just cover your losses, it changes the entire game. In this model, you see failure isn't just an option, it's a mathematical necessity. And the numbers here are, well, they're pretty stark. In the venture capital world, the starting assumption is that for every 10 investments they make, 9 of them are going to go to zero. Just let that sink in. A 90% failure rate isn't a sign that you're bad at your job. It's the cost of admission for hunting true breakthroughs. So, why would anyone accept a 90% failure rate? Because that one winner, it doesn't just make a little profit, it has the potential to return 100 times the original investment. That single home run pays for every single strikeout, and then some. And it makes all those other failures completely, totally irrelevant. Okay, so if you're going to make a lot of bets, you need a way to sort through thousands of ideas without getting totally bogged down. This brings us to the next radical idea, the red flag approach. It's not about learning how to say yes, it's about learning how to say no again and again with extreme efficiency. You know the traditional way of doing things. You take a couple of ideas and you analyze them to death. You weigh every single pro and con, and it always leads to analysis paralysis. The venture mindset just sidesteps that whole trap by using a completely different kind of filter. So the process works like a rejection funnel. First, you get a huge pipeline of opportunities. But then, and this is the key, instead of looking for reasons to say yes, you do the complete opposite. You scan for just one fatal flaw, one single red flag. And the second you find it, you say no, and you move on immediately. Only the tiny fraction of ideas that survive that brutal process get your full, undivided attention. This quote from the legendary investor Mark Andreessen, wow, it just captures the mindset perfectly. It sounds incredibly harsh, I know, but it's really about ruthless efficiency. The whole goal is to save your most precious resource, your deep analytical focus, for only the absolute most promising opportunities. So what makes an opportunity promising enough to actually survive that killer funnel? Well, for people with the venture mindset, it almost always comes down to one thing. And it's probably not what you think. It's not the product, and it's not the business plan. It's the people. A fantastic way to think about this is with a horse racing analogy. When you bet on a race, all the focus is on the horse, right? Its speed, its pedigree. The jockey is sort of secondary. In venture capital, it is the exact opposite. The horse, which is the business idea, is secondary. The jockey, the founding team, is absolutely everything.
And hey, this isn't just a fun theory. There is powerful data to back it up. A study asked over 1,000 venture capitalists what the single most important factor was in their investment decision. The result was crystal clear. Nearly half of them said it was the team. That is more than the business model and the market combined.
General Georges Doriot, who's basically one of the fathers of venture capital, said it best. So why? Why is the team so important? Because a great team can pivot. They can take a pretty mediocre idea and turn it into something brilliant. But a mediocre team, well, they'll find a way to mess up even the most perfect idea. Ideas are cheap, execution is everything. So we've talked about embracing failure, filtering ideas like crazy, and betting on people. How do we pull all of this together into a strategy we can actually use? Well, that brings us to the risk reduction playbook. First things first, we have to get one thing straight. Swinging for the fences does not mean being a reckless gambler. In fact, it's the opposite. Venture capitalists are obsessed with managing risk. They just do it in a very, very different way. They don't see themselves as risk takers. They see themselves as risk reduction engineers. They treat every project like a game of poker. You would never go all in before seeing your cards, right? You make a small bet to see the flop. Then, with that new information, you decide, do I fold, check, or maybe double down? It's all about making small, staged bets to buy information and keep your options open. So the crucial thing is putting it into practice. Here's what the playbook looks like. Make lots of small, different bets, not one huge one. At every single stage, keep the flexibility to either double down on what's working or just quit what isn't. Actively hunt for new information that could change your mind. And to fight off that tendency to agree with each other, which leads to safe, boring outcomes, you assign a devil's advocate whose job it is to challenge the group. And through it all, you never, ever forget the goal. Swing for the fences. And this all brings us to the final and really the most important part. It's not just about understanding this mindset. It's about applying it to find your organization's next home run. So that leaves us with one critical question for you. Take a really hard look at your team's project pipeline, or your company's. Is it filled with a bunch of safe bets designed just to avoid striking out? Or are you boldly building a portfolio of real experiments, and aren't you swinging for the fences to hit that one industry-disrupting home run? The answer to that question could define your entire future